Hi, this is Tom Rhodes. Please join me as I scour the four corners of the earth to bring you interesting and intelligent, funny people who will enrich your life with wisdom and laughter. I'll take you to Europe, Australia, all over America. I might take you to the peaks of Machu Picchu, the canals of Amsterdam, the Great Wall of China, or the swamps of Florida, and certainly the many, many comedy clubs and comedy theaters all over the world. Come hang out with me and meet the many interesting people that pop up in my life as I travel the world as a stand-up comedian.
You're listening to Tom Rhodes Radio.
Karate kick, baby.
Rock and roll.
Hello, and welcome to Tom Rhodes Smart Camp. I just got back from a week in Mexico. I've got lots of nice stories to share with you. I'm going to do a nice ramble today. I'm going to read you some things. I'm going to tell you some stories. I'm going to get really intimate into your eardrums. So let's start. I want to read you something to start this episode. Well, first of all, I just got back from Mexico. Oh my God. It was like peak summer temperatures there. And I am such a cold weather wimp. And even the mild Los Angeles winter is too cold for me. I was so happy to be hot again and sweat and feel this like really intense sun on my face and get a little bit of a sunburn on the back of my neck from the day I walked from the ruins in Tulum to downtown Tulum. So I'm freshly back. Happy spring. I'm so glad that nice temperatures are coming. And I want to start off by reading you this thing. I've got several books that I start the day with, these daily reader books. And one of them was given to me. I've got such beautiful listeners and people that support the podcast. Jason, he's a university professor in Phoenix. The last time I saw Jason was in Paris. And he was there the night I met this woman that I'm going to start telling you about in a minute. But about a year ago, Jason sent me this book, and it's called The Golden Present. It's daily inspirational readings by Sri Swami Satchidananda, something like that. Anywho, I'm recording this on March 27th. I'm going to release this podcast on March 28th, 2024. So this is the daily reader from this book. This was a really nice page to start my day with this morning. March 27th. Mantras have great power. Modern science has proven it. With sound vibration, you can make or break. You can heal, or you can produce disease. You can make somebody laugh. You can make somebody cry with your sound. You can turn a human being into an animal who will go out and fight. You can pacify a baby. You can enchant a cobra. You can get more milk from your cow with a little music. Plants grow with nice music. It's true, and it's all being proved nowadays. So your mantra repetition is nothing different. Certain mantras can easily cure all your problems, physical and mental. Even repeating Om Shanti, Om Shanti, Om Shanti. Shanti means peace. But it also has that peaceful vibration. It's very powerful. When you fill your system with that vitality, with that health and happiness, you become contagious. Fill yourself up to the brim with health and let it overflow. Just by your mere presence, you will bring health to others. You can pass it on to others. You will constantly emit that vibration. That will be the beginning of world health. Where should it begin? Right with you. That's interesting. That your health and happiness can become contagious because the thing I'm going to read Funny, health and happiness. And then the guy coughs. You're hilarious, Tom Rhodes. Because there's something about contagiousness that I'm going to read you at the end of this episode. But so let me vibrate some knowledge, some stories, some personal details about my life, things that have been happening. I've put out a few interview podcasts the last few episodes, so I haven't really talked about myself too much. But I'm developing. I'm whatever. Blah 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 blah. So many of you know that the last year, 2 years, I've been through a lot trying to get over this last relationship that I was in. So I did this tour in Europe last November. And when I was in Paris, I met this amazing woman that was at my show. She was stunningly beautiful. And we hung out that night, had one of the greatest nights I've ever had in Paris, hanging out with this woman. And then a week later, she took the train up to Antwerp and spent the weekend with me there. And, I've been lonely. I've been healing from this last relationship that I put just, my entire heart and being into. And it felt really nice to be loved and adored. I mean, don't we all want to be loved and adored? And it seemed like it had been a really long time since, I had some tender love and care. So that was really nice. And then since then, when I got back to the States, well, we've been talking. And she doesn't speak English. She speaks very minimal English, and I speak almost no French. And it was really adorable the way we would communicate with the iPhone, with the Google Translate. And when I was in Argentina last March, I spent the entire month of March last year in Argentina visiting my cousins. And that was really great. I hired a translator, and I got to know my cousins on a deeper, more complex level and hear their stories, tell them my stories. And when I didn't have the translator with me, I used the Google Translate. And just technology did not exist 10 years ago. It's so incredible what you can do with Google Translate. Like there's a camera feature on it. And you can hold it up to signs in different languages, and it'll translate it to English. I mean, you could read a book that's in Spanish or French or whatever language just by flicking the setting. It's just mind-blowing, the technology. So I had a lot of practice last year in Argentina with my older cousins, especially. I'd say habla, and I'd hit the record button. Then they'd tell me what they wanted to tell me, and then I'd, stop the recording, and then it translates to English. And we'd go back and forth, and it just, it was amazing. So last year, I was all gung-ho to learn Spanish, and I started, there's the great courses, which I love the great courses. You can buy these actual university courses. So I was doing the one on Spanish. And then I met this woman in Paris, and then so I ordered the great courses in French. She's a better kisser than my cousin, so I flipped from trying to learn Spanish to learning French. So we would talk on FaceTime like once a week. Because she had a job, and she's divorced. She had a couple kids. She was 45. And it was nice when we would talk on FaceTime. We both had our computers open, and, I'm working on my French. She's working on her English. It was really adorable the way we would communicate. So she came to visit me in Los Angeles in February for a week. And it was really nice. And I, romanced her. I took her to all these different places. But, let me give you an example of this. It was really cute to use this Google Translate. So I really liked that when I would speak into it or type what I wanted to tell her, when I hit the French translation, I really loved that it was a female voice speaking French, my words in French. So check this out.
Mettre du ketchup sur un hot dog, je pense que c'est un sacrilège. Et il ne faut pas faire confiance aux gens qui font cela.
To put ketchup on a hot dog, I think, is sacrilegious. And people who do that should not be trusted. You can tell the kind of deep conversations we were having. But, it's really interesting. Like when I would tell her a joke or something funny, there was like that extra moment of waiting. Or is she going to laugh? And then she would laugh and I would feel good. But let me see. Let me get another one for you. But I really loved hearing my words spoken in a female French voice because I identify as a French lesbian. So here you go. Okay, because I still got my history of. There's a lot of helicopters flying over my apartment today. Must be some criminal activity in the neighborhood. Here we go. Let me give you one more.
Parfois quand je suis seule dans ma voiture, et personne n'est avec moi, je vais me curer le nez. Là, c'est une faute.
Yeah. Anyway, I really liked it. But, to be honest with you, and, it was great. She had never been to Los Angeles before, and I took her to, Hollywood Boulevard, and she goes, wow, it seems bigger and more impressive in the movies or on television. And, that's something that I found. Like, you go to the White House, it's smaller than you think. Everything, except for I think the Eiffel Tower and the Great Wall of China. Those things are impressive when you go there. But most everything else, like the Mount Rushmore, it's tiny. You're like, really? Is this it? So I took her to all these places that I loved in Los Angeles. But, all these places that I had taken her to were places I had gone with the woman, the last relationship I had been in. So, I found myself still thinking about the last relationship, and I don't know, the fact that the woman lives on another continent. I think it was magical thinking. My thought was, oh my God, I'm going to learn French and I'm going to spend more time in Paris. Paris is my favorite city. This is perfect. But I think I was just trying to fill this hole that I've had and being lonely. And she was an amazing human being. She's from Cameroon, which is a country in Africa, if you don't know where Cameroon is. And she told me that when she was here, she told me when she grew up, she ate every kind of animal. She ate monkeys, elephants, giraffes. That's pretty mind-blowing. I was going to take her to the zoo, but I thought it might just make her hungry. Oh, the zebras look delicious. But, we had a wonderful visit with the woman. And then after she left and she went back to Paris, she asked me, how are you feeling? And I told her, I said, I think the language barrier is a little bit too much for me. To communicate everything through the phone and then not be able to make jokes freely or tell deep stories. And I told her honestly, I said, I think I'm still healing from my last relationship. And then this is what a good human being she is. This is what I translated the text that she wrote. She texts and then it's the same thing. My cousins in Argentina still write me, and when they text me in Spanish, I'll, copy paste it, go over to the translation app, punch it in. So that's what I was doing with her. And, so I told her, how my heart really wasn't in it to pursue this relationship anymore. And this is what she wrote me back. I understand, Tom. At least we will have tried. I don't regret anything about our relationship. You have always been very benevolent, romantic, and charming towards me. These are wonderful memories. I wish you to find what you are looking for, and stability too. Lots of beautiful things for the future. Don't worry about me, because I made the choice to take only the best in this life. So what I have left of you is the good times spent together. For the rest, be yourself and do what is important to you. I kiss you. Jesus. Wow. What an amazing human being. She wasn't mad at all. She didn't snap back at me with anger or lash out. She this is a fully grown adult. And she was just grateful for the time that we had and I'm grateful for the time that I spent with her. But I wasn't respecting that kind of chill Zen, philosophical gratitude when I wrote her. So, wow. It was a nice experience, but I'm definitely still healing from my last relationship that I put so much into. And there's this Hemingway quote. The most painful thing is losing yourself in the process of loving someone too much and forgetting that you are special too. And I think that happened to me, God, especially in, last year, I was just trying so hard to get back together with this woman and it wasn't working. And there's this other thing that I saw this on, sometimes you'll see these really great videos on Instagram. And it was a Denzel Washington video. Maybe you saw it. And I don't know if he wrote this or if he was just reading this, but it really was what I needed to hear right now. Because I went to Mexico. It was great. That Mexican Caribbean is so beautiful. The just beaches like cookie dough, the water's like azure blue. It's just stunning. But I still felt depressed most of the time, like thinking about mistakes that I made in that last relationship. The fact that I don't, the woman blocked me on all social media. And just the time and love we had, and that's where like things are left. I guess that's modern romance. So here's this Denzel Washington video. I had to write these words down because it hit me like a freight train. If you're rejected, accept it. If you're unloved, let go. If they choose someone or something over you, move on. Not everyone you love will stay. Not everyone you trust will be loyal. I don't care about losing people who don't want to be in my life anymore. I've lost people who meant the world to me, and I'm still doing just fine. Do not follow the majority. Follow the right way. You can feel it when someone is not being real with you. Energy never lies. Always speak how you feel and never be sorry for being real. Give people time. Give people space. Don't beg anyone to stay. Let them roam. What's meant for you will always be yours. I feel so much better when people don't know where I am and what I'm doing. You may not be able to control every situation and its outcome, but you can control your attitude and how you deal with it. Do good, and it will come back to you in unexpected ways. Be happy with what you have while working for what you want. Remember that some things have to end for better things to begin. Wow. Thank you, Denzel. So let's talk about Mexico. The first time I went to so I was staying in, my friend Turner Sparks, beautiful guy, young comedian. Well, he's not that young. He looks young. He looks like he's 23, but he's actually like 41. Beautiful guy. I love his family, and they love me. And his family owns like a condo on the beach in Acumal, Mexico, which is about, I think, 20, 30-minute drive north of Tulum. And Tulum is like an hour and a half, 2 hours south of Cancun. So it's the Yucatan Peninsula. Quintana Roo is the province. It's the Mexican Caribbean. The first time I went there was 24 years ago, in the year 2000, when I was dating Aniek, the Dutch woman that I ended up moving to Amsterdam for. So I've always been obsessed with ancient cultures and reading about the Mayans and the Incas, and I've always gotten off on that kind of stuff. So it had always been a dream to go there, and I didn't know any better. We stayed in a resort in Cancun, and there was some things that we did. We took a tour bus to Chichen Itza, and Chichen Itza, there's a sinkhole there, and the Mayans thought this was the portal to the to the afterlife. So they did human sacrifices. They threw them in this big human bodies alive. They sacrificed them into this big sinkhole, and which is interesting because I grew up in Florida and there were sinkholes everywhere, and all these freshwater lakes in the Orlando area where I grew up, those were once sinkholes. So, and I think Chichen Itza means the wizard's mouth. And that wizard's mouth is the big sinkhole next to the biggest temple there in Chichen Itza. So the first time when I went there with Aniek 24 years ago, you could climb up that temple, but you can't do it anymore. And then also on that trip, we went to Tulum. And there's Mayan temples right on the ocean, and you could swim in the ocean next to the temples, and we did that also. And you can't do that anymore either because it's protected area, because the sea turtles come in and lay their eggs there, and so that was kind of cool that we did that. But I remember when we took the tour bus from Cancun to Chichen Itza. About 15, 20 minutes before we got to Chichen Itza, the tour bus stopped and they said, "Oh, you need to see this cenote." And it was this massive underground cave. There's these underwater rivers, and it's fresh water. And it was a massive one with vines hanging, and all these people were swimming, and it was like super hot. And I remember, and then we had to get back on the tour bus and leave. And I remember thinking, well, why isn't that part of our tour? Why did they just show that to us? So 24 years later, I finally got to go back and swim in that. It's cenote Ik Kill. I'll talk about that in a minute. But it's cool we did that. Finally got to do that. It's funny how things stay in your head, me anyway. Checklist of, I got to come back one day and do that. And that was cool. But that, the people who give the people who give money to Patreon to support my podcast, if you're at the golden Buddha level, every month I send handwritten postcards, and the postcards I'm sending out for March is the postcards of the biggest temple at Chichen Itza, the big monument, the temple, whatever you want to call it. So I'm sure you've seen images of it, but while I was there, so I was, Googling interesting Mayan facts or, things about Chichen Itza and, what are the best cenotes, looking up all this information twice a year. And I remember I learned this when I went to Chichen Itza 24 years ago. So I Googled when does that happen while I was there. And I'm like, oh shit, that's tomorrow. I looked this up on March 20th. And I learned about this when I went to Chichen Itza 24 years ago. And I thought it was once a year, but it's actually twice a year. Twice a year on March 21st and September 21st. That's the equinox. The sunlight in the late afternoon hits that massive temple at Chichen Itza in such a way that the light looks like a serpent descending the massive staircase. And this wasn't discovered until, I think, 30 or 40 years ago. There was some like guard at Chichen Itza who noticed it. But it's only been recently discovered that this illusion, this phenomenal light dance of, the way it goes down the steps to look like a serpent going down the steps. It happens twice a year, March 21st and September 21st. So, holy shit, I'm looking this up on March 20th and I'm like, fuck, I'm here. And I was just telling my buddy Turner about this. And I'm like, when is that? And, oh, fuck, that's tomorrow. But as it turns out, we had a show that very next day in Playa del Carmen. So I didn't get to go see the light serpent go down the steps. And Turner had reached out to this comedian in Mexico. He'd set up a couple gigs for us, one in Playa del Carmen and the other in Cozumel. And, it was for expats in this outdoor bar. It was a lot like, kind of the bar gigs I started out in Florida doing. And, it was okay. I did I did an hour. After doing all these short sets in Los Angeles, it was really nice to stretch out and tell stories and all that. But, it was nice to make some extra money. I made the money for my flight down there, doing these 2 shows and stuff, which was, nice. But I would have much rather seen the light serpent descend those stairs in Chichen Itza. But, hey, that's life. One interesting thing, when I was there, one thing I noticed this time, which the last time I was in Mexico was 5 years ago. Went down there on my birthday and stayed in Tulum. And, so you fly into Cancun, and then I think the next biggest city is Playa del Carmen. And there's tons of expats live there. There was a really cool guy at the show, actually, that I met. A guy from Austin, Texas named Sam. And he works for this nonprofit doing archaeological excavations in the cenotes. And the cenotes are those underground caves with the underground rivers. And that's my favorite thing to do down there, is to go swim in these underground caves, because it's like broiling hot outside and the water is really chilly. And then once you get in it, it's just so, imagine what the Mayans did. Well, they threw dead bodies in there, but I guess that wasn't so pleasant in their time, seeing her, Uncle Joey, somebody, bobbing. And they thought those were the portal to the afterworld. So anyway, maybe they weren't swimming around in them the way I enjoy doing. But I met this guy, and he works for some nonprofit for the, Mexican government, and he was from Austin, Texas. And so there was some interesting, cool people at the show. But when I was coming down, when I arrived at Cancun Airport, and I'm on my way to Acumel, and we're driving through Playa del Carmen, I saw they have Home Depot in Mexico. And wow. And I guess because there's so many expats there and whatever, it's, is it a worldwide company? I don't know. I was impressed because at the Home Depot where I go in Los Angeles, and in a lot of Home Depots in the United States, in the parking lot in the daytime are Mexican men in the parking lot, hanging out all day, asking you to pick them so they can go do hard work for you for the hour, and you pay them whatever, $100, $200. So I had to spend one day in the parking lot of Home Depot in Mexico, asking people to pick me. I'll help you with your computer. I'll give you a pedicure or any other non-heavy lifting type work. Yeah, shouldn't it be called El Casa Depot in Mexico? So anyway, the trip was lovely. How about some Mayan facts? Because I got some stories for you. Oh yeah, so no, I'll save the. So the Mayans, one of my favorite movies of all time is Apocalypto, and I had it on DVD. And I wanted, before my trip, I pulled out the DVD case, and the disc wasn't in it. And you can't find that movie for some reason. It's not. You look it up. You can't. I don't know why that movie isn't available. It's one of the greatest movies of all time. But the Mayans, they were excellent, mason construction people, builders. They had a hieroglyphic language. They had their own calendar, which did not end in 2012, apparently, according to the internet, the all-wise internet. The Mayans also were one of the first people to come up with the concept of zero. I heard the Arabic world claims to have invented zero, but apparently the Mayans also came up with the concept of zero. They had massive libraries. They wrote books on fig paper, paper from fig trees, and they loved getting high. The Mayans took mushrooms, hallucinogenic mushrooms. They thought would get them closer to the gods. They believed in 160 gods, and each one represented a different phase of life. The Mayans were really big chocolate eaters, and they grew cocoa, and they made their own chocolate with mixing it with water, honey, chili peppers, cornmeal, to create this kind of spicy, savory chocolate that's, you can still find variations of that for sale in Mexico and South America and stuff. And then a lot of the foods from the Mayans is still very prevalent in Mexican food, like cornmeal, pineapples, papaya. What else? The chili peppers, avocados, squash, beans, corn, and cocoa, of course, the chocolate. And then the Mayans also were like very vain people, or very fashionable, shall we say. The Mayans were among the first people ever to master tattooing. They were really into tattooing their bodies. And then they thought that flat foreheads was like the pinnacle of attractiveness. So a lot of mothers would press boards on their baby's forehead to like flatten it out. And then they wore these elaborate headdresses, and and sharp teeth was considered attractive. So a lot of the nobility or the higher class people sharpened their teeth. So I think that's a really cool thing. I mean, you always hear about the calendar, and they predicted the end of the world, which apparently is bullshit, according to the internet. And the Mayans believed the world was flat. Interesting. But you hear about the human sacrifices that they did, but you don't think about that concept that the Mayans were like really into fashion. They were fashion conscious. They wore ornate jewelry, flowery headdresses, tattoos, colorful clothes. They're eating psychedelic mushrooms and chocolate. What a fun culture. I mean, as long as you weren't the one being sacrificed to appease the gods, it seemed like a pretty swinging happening society. And the Mayans still exist. They didn't, they might have, you always hear how they stopped existing, or the civilization collapsed, but there's still 6 million Mayan people in Mexico, and that is the same amount of Mayans that were in Mexico when the Spanish arrived. And the Spanish comedian, or the Mexican comedian who set up the gigs for us, he told us, he said, yeah, there's Mayan people everywhere. You see them. And then he would, we're like taking the ferry to Cozumel, or, walking around the downtown Playa del Carmen, and he'd go, there's a Mayan. There's a Mayan. So they were like really short, darker skinned people. But it's exciting to know that the Mayans weren't obliterated, that they're still around. They're still, a massive part of Mexican civilization. So, I find that all that really interesting. They didn't, if I was Mayan, I'd have sharp teeth and a flat forehead, and I'd be wearing some pimp ass feathers for a hat and some jewelry. But, so that's the fun facts about the Mayans. And, there's another interesting thing. So they took hallucinogenic mushrooms, but they were also into enemas. And it was part of their ritual. Now, I don't think everyone did it, but, they liked getting high from mind-altering, substances. They thought it brought them, closer to the gods, that they could communicate with the spirits. But, they thought the effect would hit them more quickly if they took it, anally through an enema. I mean, what an advanced civilization. How did they figure these things out? Researchers believe this because it's been depicted in the on the temples. I've never seen those temples, but apparently, it's a fun fact about the Mayans. Not only did they do mushrooms and eat chocolate, and dancing and music was a big part of their culture. And then they're shooting like hallucinogenic mushrooms up their bums to get higher quicker, get closer to the gods. It's just, don't you find this exciting? I find it exciting. So the trip was cool. I was a little, I don't know. It's just interesting to be a little depressed when you're in somewhere it's paradise. But I don't want to bring everybody down. I had a really great trip, and I got to swim in cenotes. One of the best ones I went to was called Grand Cenote, which is near, right outside of Tulum. And there's a cenote about a mile further from there called Cenote Car Wash. And we went there, we rented a car on the last day. Otherwise, we were taking taxis and stuff. But we rented a car to go to that faraway temple by cenote, which is near Chichen Itza that I spoke about earlier, that cenote Ikkill, which there was this really tall diving platform. And, once you jumped off of it, oh my God, you realize, wow, that's a lot further down than I had anticipated. And it was interesting to see people get up there and freak out. And then all the people in the water would go, they'd all start, chanting, do it, jump. And then some people would freak out and leave. And then there was like this little 5-year-old girl who just kept going up there. She was so brave and she just jumped off and the crowd would go crazy. And it's a massive cenote and there's vines hanging down. And that was really cool to finally go there. And then we went to the cenote car wash driving back, but a lot of these cenotes close at 4:30, which doesn't make any sense when the sun goes down at 7 o'clock, 7:30. But right next to the cenote car wash is a place called Cenote Zacil Ha, Zacil-Ha. And that was really cool, like an above ground cenote. And that was all really it wasn't touristy at all. It was like local Mexican people. And that one was actually really fun. They had a zip line thing going over it. And my absolute favorite thing to go down there is to swim in these cenotes. And downtown Tulum, we discovered this, we're eating tacos all over the place. Downtown Tulum is this taco place. It's called Honorario. Honorio. Taqueria Honorario. That's the name of it. And they specialized in pork tacos. They did 3 different kinds of pork tacos. And oh my God, we ate there twice. This place was so good. And it's right downtown Tulum, which isn't that big. Tulum, since, when I went there 20 years ago, it was really small. And then 5 years ago when I went back, it was a little built up. Now Tulum's trying to be like Bali. There's a lot of, Instagram, TikTok influencers who are, doing yoga by day and cocaine by night. That kind of Bali vibe. Full moon parties and that kind of thing. But when I was there 5 years ago, I stayed in an Airbnb, and the guy who ran the place, I don't know why he didn't tell us about this taco place. I'm almost mad at him because I only discovered it this trip, and oh my God, they were among the greatest tacos I've ever had in my life. And if you ever go there, Taqueria Honorario, and they open at 6:30 a.m. and they close at 3 p.m. So keep that in mind. Damn good stuff. So here's my big story about, I had an incident in Mexico. So I don't know if you've seen me do stand-up lately, and I'm going to tell you this story that I've been telling the last few years about, I've been sober. January 2nd was 10 years since I stopped drinking alcohol and doing hard drugs. And I want everyone to know that 3 months ago, I stopped smoking marijuana. I'm totally clean now, other than, I started smoking cigarettes again like a moron. Because I was so stressed out a couple years ago, and I need to kick that. Pauly Shore at the Comedy Store, like a month ago, came up to me. I couldn't believe how nice he was, and he said, Tom, you should really quit smoking cigarettes. Because we earn our living through our voices. And if anything happened to your mouth or your throat or your tongue, your entire business would be in jeopardy. And that's the same thing my sister Laura used to tell me like 20, 30 years ago. And I hugged him. And I said, Paulie, you're a beautiful man and I love you. And, he's really grown into a sweet, wonderful older man. He's not the weasel, from the 90s or whatever. But that was really nice. Anywho, so the story that I've been telling on stage I'll tell it now. Forgive me if it has a little polish, but 5 years ago, I went to Tulum, Mexico on vacation, and I didn't want to stay in a resort. I wanted to stay among the local people. So I rented an apartment downtown Tulum, and I was about 4 or 5 blocks from the main road where all the restaurants and bars are. And the same week I was there was an American DJ drugs festival happening. And all these Americans on drugs were walking around. And a lot of them were wearing silly little costumes. And, like you see Burning Man type costume people. So one day I'm walking up to the main road to get something to eat. And the cop cars in Tulum, Mexico are Ford F-150 pickup trucks. So I see this cop car pickup truck drive by on the main road. And then I see him back up and come down my road. And I'm thinking, shit, this guy's coming for me. And he was. This cop car pickup truck pulled right up to my chest, trying to intimidate me. Tough, mean-looking cop number 1 got out of the driver's side. I looked him in the eye and I said, "Hola, senor." Tough, mean-looking cop number 2 got out of the passenger side. I looked him in the eye and I said, "Hola, senor." Tough, mean-looking cop number 3 got out of the back seat. I looked him in the eye and I said, "Hola, senor." Now I know 8 words of Spanish, and it saved me. They came up to me and tough, mean-looking cop number 1 who was driving, he came up to me and said something in Spanish, and I didn't understand him. So when he stopped talking and he paused, I said, "Yo hablo un poquito español." And he said something in Spanish, and I hear the word hotel. I think he's asking me, where is my hotel? I said, "No hotel, apartmento, over there." He says, "Cocaine." He goes, "Drogas, cocaine, marijuana." I said, "No drogas, no bebo, no fumar. 5 años." Then they looked at each other and they said something in Spanish and they got in their truck and they drove off. I thought I was telling these men that I had been sober for 5 years. What I actually told them is that I have 5 anuses. And I think this could come in handy if you ever have a confrontation with the police anywhere in the world. Just tell them you have 5 anuses and you can only control 2 of them. So that's the story that I've been telling, and it's true, exactly the way I told it. You didn't have to embellish that one at all. So, I had this, and I've thought, wow, thank God I'm sober, because those cops were trying to shake me down for some money, obviously. And the fact that I was sober, nothing happened, fortunately. So, this trip, so my buddy Turner Sparks, his family, they have a condo in Akumal, and, there's, the cartels have taken over a lot of Mexico, but, the tourism is such a big industry. It brings in, so much money. In Akumal, along the ocean, where their condo is, it was an area where a lot of retirees, a lot of retired Americans and Europeans and different flavored honkies and other, non-Mexican ethnicities are living. And there was on that road along the beach, there was like a guard little building with a roadblock arm thing. You have to identify yourself before they lift it. And then, so you'd see this in Tulum and Playa del Carmen, and then up and down that street every once in a while. Well, you see the Mexican military presence. So you see these military pickup trucks and men in the back with machine guns. There was one, mounted machine gun, and then other guys are standing there. Like about 4 guys in the back with machine guns, and they're patrolling the area to, keep the tourists safe. And, when you see them, you're glad they're there. And, anyway, that area is really nice. Oh, and then there's a lagoon. It was about a 10, 15 minute walk down that road where we were staying in Akumal, and it's where the Grateful Dead had a house on this lagoon. And you have to pay an entrance to get, into that lagoon, and you have to pay an entrance to get into all those cenotes. There's everywhere they're trying to make money. And, but that's cool that the Grateful Dead had a house down there in that area. And that lagoon, we went there. It was beautiful. Turtles, and blue fish, and blah-de-blah. So we did the shows in, Playa del Carmen. And then Cozumel. Cozumel was like, we had to take a ferry. It's an island, and it's where cruise ships stop. And it's funny, the Mexican people we talked to there were like, oh, it's paradise here. And so, nah, I didn't think it was that great. It looked like a place where, that caters to cruise ship tourists. Cozumel is nicer, and Tulum is nicer. So it was last Saturday night. Turner's been going down there for, his family's had this place for 20 years. So he said downtown Tulum, which was about a half-hour walk from where the beach where we were staying is. There was like there's like one main road, kind of highway from Cancun down to Tulum. And then from Cozumel to go to their downtown Cozumel, there's like there's a bridge for cars, and then there's a footbridge. So we walk up there, and because I'm just taco crazy. It's all I want to eat. And in Los Angeles a lot. That's all I want to eat. I think tacos are among the greatest food. And we had some bad ones in Mexico. The restaurants on the beach all had the shittiest food. It was the ones in the downtown areas where local people eat. Those were the best ones. So Turner said, I know this great local taco place, downtown Tulum. So Saturday night, we walk up there, and there was, and it's outdoor place, and it, maybe 20 people could sit inside. That's how small it was. But then there's like 20 people waiting. And I'm like, oh shit, this is going to be a long wait. Well, it turns out the 20 people waiting were waiting for to-go orders. So all the tables were full, except for right by the entrance, there was one man sitting by himself at this table. And the woman, Turner speaks a little Spanish. I speak 8 words of it. The woman said, she asked the man who was sitting by himself by the door if we could sit with him. And he said yes. And so we sat down, and, we, ordered, and it took a while because, there's so many people ahead of us waiting for these delicious tacos. So we talked to this guy. And his name was Vigo. And he was a wonderful, beautiful man. And about 1 mile south of Cozumel, 1 mile, 2 miles at the most, is this big PGA golf course. It's, an official course in the Professional Golf Association. And this guy worked there. And he loves golf. And he's a golf pro. He teaches it, but he does everything. He caddies. He gives golf lessons. The way I've dedicated my life to comedy, this guy has dedicated his life to golf. Beautiful man, Vigo. And he had lived in the United States for 10 years. So his English was decent. And he lived in Johnson City, Tennessee, for like 4 years. And then he lived in South Carolina in a few different places for 6 years. And he worked on golf courses. That's his life, golf. So he's back in Mexico, and he's working at this place, and he lives in the downtown Cozumel area. So he, had just gotten off work from work in the day. And then, he's having dinner by himself, and we sit down and we're having this wonderful conversation with the guy. Absolute sweetheart. And then this very mean, very ugly, and very drunk looking Mexican man came in to the restaurant, and he said something loudly to me. And I knew he wasn't asking me for the time, and I knew he wasn't trying to make a friend. And it's amazing. I don't know how he said something loudly to me in Spanish, and he looked mean, ugly, and drunk. And I jumped up instantly and I shook his hand and I said, "Yo soy Tom, mucho gusto." And I shook his hand. And I really surprised this guy. And I surprised myself, to be honest with you. I don't know where that came from. I just jumped up instantly and showed this guy respect. "Yo soy Tom, mucho gusto," which means nice to meet you, if you don't know. And then he's saying things in Spanish. And I'm looking at him with very sincere, kind eyes. And I'm trying to follow him. And I look at Vigo, and Vigo's looking down. He's not even looking up at the man. So I know, oh shit, this is not a good situation. Vigo's just sitting there like quietly eating his tacos, not looking up at the man. And Turner, with his kind, happy face, is trying to understand the guy. So he's speaking and I don't know what he's saying. So 3 times when he's speaking, when he paused, I just put my hand on my heart and I said, "Respecto, respecto, respecto," which means respect. Because I could tell this guy was looking for any slight, any reason to go off. And he looked like a very dangerous man. And he did not seem happy, and he seemed very inebriated from his red bloodshot eyes. And then, like a bear playing with someone who's playing dead, I guess he just got bored. That there's no, there's no challenge of a kill. It would take skill. And then he went and sat in the back with some people. And then Vigo says, "Some very bad men have moved into the town, and it's best not to have any trouble with them." So that was a cartel guy. And I had I thought my brush with the police the last time I was in Mexico, I thought that was going to be the most, my most severe brush with danger. But holy shit, there's some for real dangerous shit that you have to deal with visiting Mexico. So as much as I love that area, I think that might be my last trip to Mexico. I think I'd much rather go visit my family in Argentina. I've always wanted to go to Colombia. I've always dreamed of going back to Peru. I love you, Mexico. Respecto. But yeah, wow. And thank God I'm sober, and that I didn't do anything out of line. And it just surprised myself that I just showed this guy. I wanted to make it clear that I had nothing but respect for him. And that I meant absolutely no trouble, and I meant absolutely no harm. And, I wasn't going to give him the slightest reason to be pissed off at me. So, phew, that was a close call. Anywho, so that was that. That was Saturday. And then Sunday we rented the car, and we drove to these cenotes, went back to Honorario's for breakfast, and had the pork tacos. And then Turner kept the rent-a-car. And he drove me to the airport. His wife was flying in around the, couple hours before I was flying out. And he stopped at a gas station to fill up the gas tank. And it was a normal gas station. It wasn't like, some ghetto looking place. This was like like a chain with good paint and logos. And they have gas station attendants that pump the gas for you. And Turner said he had half a tank. He said, fill it up with regular. And then the attendants were talking to him in Spanish. And then when it finished pumping, they wanted like 1,800 pesos when it should have been 800. And Turner's like, no. I said regular. And they go, oh, we thought you said premium. And he said, no, I told you regular. And then he's going, back and forth with these guys. And Turner Googled how many liters does that car, does the tank hold? And then they said, how about, 1,400. He said, no, it should be 800. And then they said 1,200. Anyway, that took like 30 minutes. And then when they finally got down to the honest price of 800 pesos, Turner paid it. They took cash only. So Turner said that his father had told him, when you get the gas, you got to watch them and watch the thing, because you'll be talking to them. And then they talk to you to distract you. It'll be like 200 pesos. And then the next thing you look at, it's like 1,800 or 2,000 pesos. And they've, rigged the numbers or something. So they're pocketing the difference. So imagine how many tourists don't speak Spanish that are getting hustled by guys working in a regular gas station. So it was like, so many, people overcharging you for this, people overcharging you for that. And then the near brush with death from El Guapo, the cartel guy. I may have enjoyed my last cenote. Anyhow, that was my trip to Mexico. I'm alive, and I'm very happy to be back home. I'm back doing hot yoga, which I got to work off all the taco meat that I ate. Oh, hey, that was another thing about the Mayans. That's another fun fact about the Mayans, is that they loved to sweat it out. The Mayans had sweat lodges. So they were very, vain, fun-loving people. They like to sweat in sweat lodges. And that makes me happy, because I'm like obsessed with hot yoga. And then also I like to be fashionable. I wear nice clothes. So maybe I'll, flatten my forehead and start to tattoo my body. Oh, and I meant to say, the Home Depot in Mexico, twice a year, the sunlight hits it in such a way on March 21st and September 21st that it gives the illusion of a man in a sombrero doing a shot of tequila. Nah, I'm just fucking around. Okay, well, I think we've had enough stories, laughter, and knowledge for one episode. And is that it? Is that everything I wanted to tell you? I'm going to do more of these long rambles. I miss talking to you. I miss just emoting how I'm feeling and not asking people questions. So let's end it with this. I'm going to, the daily readers, I've got the Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday. I've got this Daily Hafiz reader. I've got the Golden Present. My mom got me Courage to Change, which is the Al-Anon daily reader. And I also have this. It's a Leo Tolstoy daily reader. And it's thoughtful wisdom for every day. 365 days of love, kindness, healing, faith, and peace. And this is from March 27th. There is no evil. A person can escape the unhappiness that befalls him, but not the unhappiness he creates himself. Everyone has his problems in life, but if we live with humility, it is easy to carry this burden. Our problems are given to us so we can strive against them. If you are ill, endure. If you are judged, respond with kindness. If you are humiliated, be humble. If you are to die, accept death with gratitude. All truly great things happen through suffering. A bad mood is bad, not just for you, but because it is contagious. If you feel unhappy, spend some time on your own. Be around others only when you are feeling better. Wow. There's a lot of powerful wisdom in this episode. All truly great things happen from suffering. I'm going to keep that in mind. I'm going to stop complaining. I haven't been complaining. I've been working on myself. And that was the thing I said earlier about contagiousness coming back. A bad mood is bad, not just for you, but because it is contagious. So try and stay happy, everybody. You know, there's enough bitter turds in this world, and there's enough dangerous scenarios and bad, angry people. And yeah, fuck all that. Hooray for humanity. And thanks for listening to my podcast. I love you all very much. Mwah. Merci beaucoup. Mon amis, mes amis.